So this is basically what we're going to do here is I'm going to go through basically a real high level overview as far as the bigger brain stuff goes, and give you some ideas of what you guys can do moving forward. And historically, we have done a lousy job of really effectively communicating what the opportunities and what the capacities are for this stuff. And that's part of what we're doing here. So, and go ahead and interject with questions because this is not being used, publicly as a big, marketing thing or anything along those lines. So feel free. And with that, so what is Bigger Brains? It is a kind of an LMS, learning management system, a light one, but for all of your employees. Currently, they have about 230 courses. All of those courses are available to all of your employees, and some of them are actually available to send to other people outside of your organization. We'll get into that a little bit. We're also adding content. We're creating videos, which we're calling How Do I's, and we'll go into that a little bit. And you can add your content. So in other words, if you have processes or you have procedures or training that you use to onboard employees or are for specific roles or responsibilities, and that you want your clients to see, you can actually add that without additional charge. And if you are on either a Model 23 or Model 24 agreement, you guys are, you get licensing for all of your all employees. If they have a Microsoft 365 license, they get this content. Okay? And you can assign it and track lessons, courses to employees. And just to give you an idea, they are constantly adding stuff. These are the courses that have been added since December. So over the last 4 or 5 months or so. Some of these are relatively short when they talk about, brain bites. Brain bites are usually like 10, 15 minutes long, which is good because sometimes that's all you want, that quick overhead. And then they've got longer ones as well. So these just get added. So they just find their ways in. One of the things that we're looking to do is find a better way to communicate to you guys regular updates when they add courses that we let you know. That's also part of our goals here that we're looking to do. And if you look at some of these things like GDPR essentials, if you're doing any business in Europe, but Ergonomics Unleashed, technical writing, this is not technical. This is not geek stuff. This is just business, normal business operational stuff. So they're constantly adding stuff, and it's not just to dealing on the techie or geeky side. It's real simple to get into it. You just go to brainstationlms.com. You use your 365 because we have set it up so that your organization, when you add a user, they just use their 365 credentials. And you can even add it to your Teams so that it can be an app that's inside Microsoft Teams. And I'll show you how to do that. But it's pretty simple from that aspect of it. We have 3 documents that are available. One is the team leader guide that did get updated this year, which basically a team leader is more or less an administrator for your group, for your company, organization, and really they're responsible for assignments and for all that kind of good stuff. And I'll walk through a little bit about what they can do. We also have the course catalog, which is updated annually, so it may not have some of the stuff that in the list that I showed you, but it will have almost all the other stuff. And then also we created what we call a framework document, and I'll show you, it's an Excel worksheet that allows you to actually search through stuff a little easier than the site does. Okay. So features, relatively straightforward LMS stuff. So a team leader, and you can have as many team leaders in your organization as you want. You can then create by default, your team is everyone at your organization. You can create sub-teams if you want. So if you wanted a team that included all your managers, you wanted one that was only your salespeople, only ones that were your video people, whatever. You can create and edit as many teams. Individual user can be a member of as many teams as you want. And so that's where you take individuals and put them in groups. You can do the same thing for courses. You can create what are called learning paths. So you can take, let's say, for example, you wanted someone to get to learn from soup to nuts about Excel 365. You can create a learning path that has the 5 or 6 courses on Excel 365, and we'll walk through a little bit on that. And you can specify that they have to take the courses in order by creating a learning path. And that way you can always have that learning path ready so that if you're rolling out a new technology or a new set of courses, you always have that same list. So we recommend, like one of the things we do is we have an all employees learning path. We have a manager's learning path. So all employees have to go through this. All managers have to go through this. However you want to do it. And by assigning these courses, you track the content, you track or progress. You can track to see whether or not they're keeping up with it, whether or not they're doing it. When you assign it, you can give a deadline for when they're supposed to have it done. This is especially useful, I think, when you have an employee where you do an annual review or a quarterly review, or however often you review it, and you say, hey, you need to get better at X, Y, or Z. And part of the challenge with those is when you're done with it, you have no idea if they're actually going to do any work on that. You hope they do, but what are they going to do? What are they going to do to actually get better at that? So let's say someone has, they're not great at time management. Fine, assign them the time management course. And if nothing else, you'll see whether they took it. Same thing could be true, and there's also, workplace behavior. There's also stuff, as I mentioned, Excel, all sorts of other tools or technology. So this is not only that you can assign them some resources so they can make the improvement, but you can track whether or not they're doing it. Okay. And as we mentioned, you can add your own content. I'll walk you through that real briefly. And then for employees, they can take any course. We're not blocking any course so anyone wants to take any of the 230 some, they can go ahead and do it. If you want to, we can talk about blocking some course. I'm not quite sure why you do that, but you can do that. You can also add BrainStation to your teams. You can share lessons with others. Some of the lessons you can share with people outside of your organization. So if you put together your own content, again, and you want that content to be shared to a client, you can go ahead and share that with the client and track to see whether or not they've taken it. So if, well, we can see, we'll go through that stuff. And then the other thing on the employee, they get to learn. One of the biggest challenges that I've always said for us is it's one thing for us to tell our clients that, hey, you need more powerful computers because you need to do more with the computer. You want to be more productive. But the challenge is, how about your users? Are your users productive? Are your users to that level where they're able to do those things? So now, what are the responsibilities? We can't track the users. We can't manage that aspect of it. So our responsibility is we'll set up the tenant. We'll create it so that all your users are in there. We will set up the primary contact. Will be the team leader. You can give us any other team leaders you want. There's no charge or anything along those lines. And we will inform you, as I mentioned, of new courses as things move forward. And we'll support your use of the product, meaning if you guys have any questions, you have any challenges, whatever, we will support it. And we will also troubleshoot technical issues with the product. I will say about a year ago, their interface was horrible. They have really improved it. It's still a little kludgy, but it's a lot easier to use than it used to be. What are your responsibilities? Uh, as employees are added, it's be your responsibility to add new employees to your organization. It takes about 10 seconds. And also, when you're going to be responsible for creating or editing any learning paths and assigning courses or learning paths, and tracking progress or the lack thereof. So bottom line is we're giving you the tools, we're making sure the tools work, we're helping you understand the tools, but it's up to you guys to actually use the tools. And we'll always sit down and go over and troubleshoot and have sessions to talk about what are, some brainstorming about how to better use it, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. The pricing, it's included. So if you're on a Model 23 or a Model 24 agreement, it is included for all licensed 365 users. It's so there's no additional cost for this. So that's a boring slide. So demo number 1 is the user. And really, it gets down to, you go to BrainStation LMS by default, and I don't know who Jackson Phillips is. I don't want to know. But we've set it up for our Microsoft 365, yours, so you should be able to just log in with Microsoft. And this is for all your users, team leaders, or anything along those lines. It'll log on to the LMS. And pretty much this is what the user will see. They will not see the team leader unless they are the team leader. But for all purposes, they can see here are the courses that person's recently taken. Here's the courses they've been assigned. Here's courses that are overdue, completed courses, and any learning path. And if they click on this, it'll show them the courses, and then all they have to do is just click, and oh, look, I can get certificates in some cases. Yay. So it is real simple for an end user to use this product. They just log in and they follow. They can also go into the content library if they want to find courses on their own, or they can just search here for courses up here. So this basically shows them what they've either done or what they're running, and this shows them the progress. Next thing I wanted to show was the team leader. And the team leader is, you use the same login, but you just go up here. And you can see the team leader is actually pretty simple. Manage teams, creating learning paths, and assigning courses. The most time you'll spend will probably be in learning paths and course assignments. You will not see reseller. That's because we're a reseller. A learning path is very simply, so let's just take a look at this guy we set up as a test, as Excel. And we set up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 courses on Excel 365: beginner, basics, intermediate, advanced, and expert. And you'll notice that that is from the low knowledge or experience of the product to the high level. And we can create that learning path, and they have to take those courses in order. So they can't get to the basics, the intermediate, the advanced, or expert until they've taken beginner. All right. And that's up to you when you set up the learning path. And setting up a learning path is pretty simple. You just go to create, and we've created a video on how to create learning paths. It's in Bigger Brains. Okay. Course assignment gets to that's basically you want to assign the course to somebody. And as you can see, pretty straightforward. You can either assign courses to an individual, or you can assign multiple people to a particular course. So if, let's say, for example, that you've got a bunch of people who you've decided that you're going to use ChatGPT. Okay, so I want people to learn ChatGPT. So I'm going to assign learners to course. And I'm just going to say chat. Here's the ChatGPT. So I'm going to select that course, and I'm going to select the people, and we'll blur this before we post it. But I just want Kurt and I to receive that, and I can specify what date do we want them to have this done by, May 30th, and send them an email notification. If I do that, assign users, yay, they're now all assigned. So if Kurt or I go into and look at the assigned courses, it's now going to include that course. It's that easy. Now, there also happens to be 2 courses on AI, one on ChatGPT, the other one on Copilot. Could have put them together to create a learning path. So I've got some flexibility here. Make sense? Cool. Adding to Teams. This is actually kind of cool or useless, depending upon how much you use Teams. But if you want to use Microsoft Teams, and I'm hoping I can do this while I'm also recording, what I can do is I can go over to Apps, and I can specify bigger brains, and I'm going to go ahead and add that into my teams. And now I automatically have that in my teams. And if I right click here and I say pin, that means from now on, every time I go into teams, I'm going to have direct access to my bigger brains, my LMS. You can also, in specific channels and specific teams, you can actually add specific courses. So if, let's say, for example, that you created a team of all your supervisors, you could have, or of your video people or whatever, and there were specific courses you wanted them to take, you could make that a tab in your teams for them to get to that particular content. So you have some real flexibility here as far as how you want to present. Whatever's assigned to them or whatever's available, that doesn't change. But so you can actually create it so that some content is going to be more forcefully shared to people than others. Make sense? And you could just remove the app if you want to. I hate to say that is kind of all I wanted to do. Actually, no, there's one other thing I want to show. So one other thing is, actually, let's start with this.
Hey, Bob, I got a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were set up on Get Bigger Brains on, I think, with a prior interface. And so
Yep.
I just logged in. I have access. So at what point, but we've hired employees recently. So at what point, how do you know who the team leader is? Is it a separate login for a team leader?
So I'll answer that question in more detail in a minute, but the
Okay.
bottom line is put in a service ticket to
Yeah.
basically say you just want to kind of reboot Bigger Brains.
Reboot. Okay.
Okay, makes sense?
Yep.
Because you're exactly in that situation. We've got several people who are trying to use it, and because I love this product, but I hate their organization, and we never really paid it the attention to get it better defined. We think we've taken care of that, and we've also been working with Bigger Brains on that. So it's one of those where we'll take what you've done so far, kind of wrap it around what we've talked about here, and then make whatever changes are necessary.
Does Simplex ever assign courses to its customers?
And as of right now, no.
You should assign cybersecurity awareness because we need it. I mean, I will
Well,
assign it to everybody if
actually,
you
oddly enough, that's the topic of
next month's what?
next month's webinar.
Oh, okay.
Is going to be because we are no longer, because we've always kind of we needed the client to help us assign the cybersecurity because we don't know the users, but we've switched over to a new product called Fin. And Fin, it automatically assigns, it automatically deploys, it automatically reminds people. There's no more Mr. Nice Guy as far as the cybersecurity training. So that's going to be it's going to be kind of the same way as this, but much cleaner and much, I don't want to say aggressive, but it'll be a lot easier for you to manage that product. And that's just going to be there.
So that's a separate learning platform.
It is a separate learning platform. There are some cybersecurity courses here as well, some training, but the Fin is much more that actually every month, each user will get about a 5-minute learning course, and will get reminded, as well as there will be attempted simulated cybersecurity attacks.
Okay, and the first course that will be assigned through Fin for, employees of companies that are
Yep.
customers of Simplex will be the month of what? June?
Actually, it's when we're implementing the Model 24, and I don't know where you are in that time frame at this point,
Okay,
but that's part of the deployment of the 24.
got it.
So it basically, you'll be on it, and then from that point onwards, it's just going to happen.
Okay.
Make sense? Cool. So as I showed you, this is examples of stuff that we've added. So we've created learning paths in Bigger Brains, assigning courses in Bigger Brains. We've also got one on spam filter, how to clear stuff in your spam filtering. These are courses that we've added. All right. And these are also similar to stuff that you could add. And it's actually pretty simple. In the Teams leader, you go to Course Builder, and you can go ahead and create a new course. And we'll just call this one Test, whether it's public for everybody and whether or not you want to be able to share it. And we'll say Add Course, and we will get rid of this. And here's all the things that you can create. You can create multiple modules. And so you can just have this being HTML. You can have it just being a PDF file, PowerPoint, a pool of questions so you can quiz people at the end of the course. You can have breaks between the sections. So you've actually got the ability, depending upon what you want to do and how you want to do it, you've got some flexibility in terms of creating some good content. And so if one of you, if any of you are selling to a client where you have some onboarding process or you have some onboarding training that you want to put them through, this is a great way to do it. Whether it be web, whether it be or just a website or PowerPoint or whatever, and you can actually test them on it at the end. And this is all included.
Do we have the opportunity to generate certificates? I know you mentioned that some of those module or some of those courses you can download a certificate after completing. If we create our own course, can we generate a certificate that's sent?
I don't believe so,
Okay,
but I could very well be wrong on that one. The thing I would look towards is either the Word doc and or the HTML, and I haven't gone that deep into it
got it. Okay.
to see whether or not you can customize that with metadata from the attendee. Okay. Anywho, so bottom line, Ben, like you're saying, take a look at what you got, get an idea of how you want to use this moving forward, submit a service ticket, let us know how you want to move forward with this. And then we'll arrange a time to go over this stuff, take a look at how you're doing stuff now, and what do we need to do to get you on this path. And we'd love some feedback because I honestly, we've been offering this thing for like the last 3 years or so, and it has been tough to get people to aggressively use this. But I think it's one of the most underused tools that we offer our clients.
I got some feedback for you.
Yay!
Yay. You mentioned putting bigger brains in Teams.
Yep.
I found in the Teams admin portal where I can add the app to everybody's team and pin it to everybody's teams, and forcing it up there like that has actually improved people's use of it.
Cool.
Getting them to log into the website was impossible, but
Uh-huh.
just putting it in Teams and it's right there, and they don't have to like log into it because it just opens up, has been great. They actually use it now.
Cool. That's actually good to know, Joe, because one of the things we've been talking about is because what we want to do, and Ben, this gets to kind of your question, we want to have a questionnaire when we onboard or upgrade clients to the next model year or us in the first part. And so we want to basically have these questions like, who are your team leaders going to be? And then also, do we want to have it automatically pushed out? Two teams is a good one to add from the sounds of it. And this is one of the documents we've also created. It's a little bit on the small side, but this is essentially uh, all of their English focused courses. And in some cases, like for example, you can see awkward at the office. There's California, Connecticut. So not all of them are appropriate, but that's up to you. And the idea being is that we want to give an examples of here's a learning path. So as an example, this is the learning path that we're saying this might be a good all-employee learning path. And to use this as kind of give this to clients to say, hey, if you want, fill this out for a first off, and we'll create the learning paths for you to start with. So you can start with something. and then they can kind of move on and manage it themselves moving forward. But Joe, that's good feedback about the teams.
Yeah, I guess it's just appeals to their laziness. Just made it automatic and it worked.
And as someone who would be president of the Laziness Society, had I chose to join, which I'll get around to sometime, right, with my procrastinator club, I'm all in favor of finding ways to deliver this stuff into lazier form.
There's also one more step in encouraging people to use Teams, because we still got issues with people wanting to use Skype or Slack instead of Teams. And
yeah,
one more reason for them to stick with Teams.
Cool. And you can also do the assignment, because there are beginner teams, there's mastering, intermediate, there's about 5 or 6 teams courses.
Yeah, actually, all of our new hires are required to take the beginners, like of using Teams, and that I think it's called Think Before You Click, one of the cybersecurity ones.
Yeah.
We actually require all new hires to sit through it, and if they don't, our HR woman hounds them until they do.
Terrific. And that's a key thing is really this should be primarily an HR issue.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if you make it an IT issue or the geek issue or anything along those lines, there's no teeth. There's no stick to the carrot.
Yeah, I have no teeth.
Hey, Bob, we utilize ADP, and have access to ADP's My Learning portal as well, which is I believe it sounds, I mean, I've dived. What the hell's the past tense of that word? Whatever. I've been in there, and what do you see? I think
it's been there, dove that.
Yeah, sure. I like that one. What do you see as some of the benefits of this system over and above maybe other LMSs, as far as whether it's content, usability, flexibility?
I got nothing. And here's what I mean by that is first of all, this is included in our agreement. Okay, so there's no additional cost. And if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, I want to save money. I don't want this service," this really is not terribly expensive for us, so it really wouldn't cost them that much. So the cost for this is a no-brainer, relatively speaking. As far as LMSs go, this is so first of all, there's the question of adding additional content.
Yep.
Okay, and adding additional trackable content, and adding additional content that is shareable outside of your organization.
Got it.
So that to me that's a biggie right there, and the flexibility that you have. And because I truly think that this is, and I've said it to the bigger brains folks who are good people. You guys have a poor man's LMS. Because most LMSs are significantly more expensive. They're significantly more, whatever you want to call it. This just has raw flexibility. You can do things really simply and easily, which I like that. And the fact that, and I've shown you the 3 videos. So we've added 3 videos so far on how to I's. We are dedicated, and we've already made plans, and Kurt is annoyed hearing about them. But we are going to be adding a lot more, and we're going to be adding how to I's for how do you submit a ticket with us? How do you check on the status? We're going to add, there's basically 3 types of how to I's, or 3 types of how do I audiences. One is going to be for the end user, which is going to be how do I use the tool, such as Bigger Brains or whatever, but also how do I submit a ticket? How do I track the progress? How do I change my password? How do I whatever? The second is going to be to the management of the clients. How do I track my Bigger Brains learning, their progress? How do I see how well my people are doing on security training? How do I see all of the tickets within my organization? How do I check our payment portal? So on and so forth. And then the third one is going to be to folks like Joe, who are the internal IT for our co-managed clients. We want to have them, and we'll also have our team as well. How do I check the remote monitoring? How do I deal with this alert? How do I deal with those things? So we're trying to basically make it so that management has a much better understanding about what we're doing, how we're doing it, so that end users can be more productive, whether it be productive working with us or productive working with the tools we provide. And then how do our co-managed cohorts use the tools that we're sharing with them in order to be more superpower and all that. So there's going to be more and more content that we're just going to add, but no additional charge, no nothing along those lines. And boy, we'd love to hear topics for the how to I's. So there's going to be things that are going to be aimed kind of focused on you guys. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's that relationship with Simplex, right? And that you guys are generating content on here, we can track it. I think it's also, like you said, the fact that we could generate our own content
Yeah.
and deploy it through this LMS and then share that externally. That's big. Does Microsoft own Get Bigger Brains or Bigger Brains?
Nope.
Okay, so what? Um, I'm just wondering. So when our employees, if they've got a course that they could take through ADP or through Bigger Brains, ADP being our HR arm, it automatically gets tracked as like in compliance with certain
Right.
regulations because you've taken the bloodborne pathogen training.
Yep.
So is there like can you speak to the credibility of Bigger Brains as an authority when it comes to this training, or the types of individuals who are delivering the content?
Yes. It is. There's nothing meaningful about their credibility. And I don't mean that as I think they're good. I think they're absolutely good content. But you know how, like, in some cases, you get these CEU credits or
Yep.
you get these credits. It's not that type of thing at this point in time.
Got it.
Now, so essentially, what you can basically say is, yes, we're using an LMS. Yes, this company over here, and they do have some pieces parts, but they're not going to be as fully blown, as fully uh, certified as ADP would be, I would think.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking of, like, when I think of ADP, I think more on the compliance side, and
Right.
I'm thinking of Bigger Brains as more of like the functional side, right? The
Well, and
skill set.
it depends on what the requirements are. So from an insurance standpoint, okay, an insurance standpoint is basically going to say, are you performing due diligence to make sure that your employees are um, educated on, and it could be a sexual harassment, it could be
Yeah.
diversity and inclusiveness, it could be a cybersecurity, it could be whatever. Some of those are going to say, and we are just going to say yes or no. And yes or no is good. And as long as the content was created by a responsible third party, not, yeah, we got everybody together, we bought pizza and we told, don't treat people poorly. Okay, give me that pizza. That's mine. You know,
Though that's not
um,
a bad way to have a pizza party.
it is not. There are few bad ways to have pizza parties,
This is true.
you know. But you see what I'm saying? As long the biggest trouble I think is when someone says this, they're self-medicated.
Yep.
That I think creates the biggest challenge that an insurance or a compliance folk is going to say. If in the compliance requirements they are stating that there must be education or training and it has to be of this type or level, that's where you've got to do due diligence, which will certainly help you with. But you've got to do due diligence that any provider of training is on that level. Now, one of the things you can do is you can also put in materials here that are contained somewhere else. So, like such as YouTube being the most popular one. So, let's say, for example, that ADP has or somebody has a video that is a publicly available video that works as a compliance requirement. You can add that as your content as a module they're supposed to take, and you can use Bigger Brains to then record the fact that that person has in fact watched it.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. No, I appreciate you diving a little bit deeper there. Question on just a feature. Does Bigger Brains have the ability to proactively notify a team leader when somebody's completed a course? Or is this something that we have to go in and
I
prompt the
haven't looked at that. That's a good question. I'll
Okay.
check into that. So let me check and see what kind of alerting you can get as to either side of the fence. Either someone has completed stuff or someone has not, and the deadline is passed. I'll check into both of those.
Okay. And then we can use the whip if we need to.
Yeah, but which one?
Yeah.
Choose wisely, my son. Okay, and that is pretty much it as far as this goes. And we've had the questions going through, but any more questions?
No, sir.
Cool. Is this helpful?
It was because I hadn't looked at the course builder before.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably have more questions after this, but at least I feel like I have a direction to start sniffing in.
Cool.
If
And
that
that's
makes
all,
sense.
this is one of those where this is a big push this year. Because like I said, we're offering the product, and like both you guys are saying, you get mixed responses and mixed views. So we're really doubling down on encouraging and educating folks to do it. So love
how
the
are
feedback.
how are you determining success with that push?
Honestly, I'm not. You will.
Yeah. Okay. Or it's at least on the get restarted sessions or get started sessions, making sure that we're deploying that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those where it goes kind of in stages. The first part is how many people actually just say, yeah, go ahead and install it. We'll be fine. And if you ask us no questions or anything along those lines, we probably have some ways to check some like usage reports, aggregate usage reports or all that kind of fun stuff. But also Kurt, since he's on this call, part of his responsibility is to have what we call TBRs, technology business reviews,
Hmm.
where we talk with the clients and see where we're going. And so one of the questions I think that will be appropriate moving forward is, are you using it? How's it working for you?
I think I'm also particularly interested in Fin, the other
Yep.
cybersecurity LMS, because that's, I know created a few problems for you guys from our perspective.
Yep.
Or people clicking on things they shouldn't be clicking on.
I know. And you're the only one. No one else has
Yeah.
ever clicked on anything bad whatsoever.
Yep. And they're getting better. The people send those emails, they're getting more creative. It's just crazy.
Well, the thing that I've told people, I've said for years is the bad guys are entrepreneurs. So they are constantly developing new product, new services, new marketing tools, new sales promotions, and they just happen to all be evil. And there's nothing right now, since so many of them are operating in countries that actively support, if not truly are behind these folks. There's nothing attacking their business model. It's not going to go away anytime soon. So cool. That's all I got, guys.